We can get started. Welcome everyone to Member Solutions webinar, Setting Membership Pricing Based on Your True Value. We are thrilled to have today on the call Steve Giroux. Steve is the founder and owner of Giroux Bros Martial Arts, which is 2 facilities focused on programs for kids martial arts, adult martial arts, birthday parties, summer camps, and fitness boot camps. Steve is also the author of In the Black, Living the American Dream by Owning and Operating Your Own Small Business. Before passing it over to Steve, just a few admin items that I wanted to review. If you do have a question during the presentation, just go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we will try to answer all questions at the end of the webinar. And also, if you feel comfortable, we encourage you to turn on your video. By turning on your camera, it just helps promote interactivity and engagement so that we can all get the most out of today's webinar. So without further ado, Steve Giroux.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining in today. So yeah, we had the last webinar, I touched on this a little bit, and the Kristens asked me if I would do a webinar on this specific topic, and I think it's a great idea because it's an overlooked one that as school owners we all you know, kind of have a tough time with, or uncertainty or whatever. So I'm going to share a little bit of background to kind of paint the picture of how I got into fixing my rates and going into a different direction, in a positive direction. I've had my studio, my main studio, for 23 years now. And when I started out in a very affluent community outside of Boston called Newton. It's about 5 minutes from Fenway Park, just to give you guys an idea of location. But it's really expensive there. When I was working full-time after I graduated college, I needed a place that was close so that I can be able to teach after work. So I lucked out and I found this tiny little basement space, really cheap rent. At the time, didn't seem so cheap, but it was, you know, $900 a month. And it got me started. And when I went into it, I had the same mentality that many of us in the industry have of what to charge, right? So what I did is I went back to what, you know, we charged, or my instructor charged years before, which was only $65 a month, right? So I went in and said, all right, I'm gonna charge $65 a month. So I got started, and luckily I was working full time, but not much, not making much. So I kind of had to dip between the two to float one, to float the other, and back and forth. And you know, I got to a point where it was really difficult. I just wasn't making a lot of money, didn't have systems in place. Ended up joining a consulting group. They got me into the membership idea, which, you know, monthly recurring revenue. And then they were the first ones to get me to up my rates. And I went from 65 a month to 95 a month. So not bad, a little bit higher, but still nowhere near as much as I should have been charging. Fast forward 6 years, I outgrew the space. They basically kicked me out because I took up all the parking spots before the other tenants were at work on a Saturday. That's when I realized how expensive an area I was in, because I was not finding any more basement space locations for $900 a month. Ended up going into a place, horrible deal. Well, it was 4,500 square feet, really nice place. Horrible deal as far as the triple net option. Long story short, it ended up being about $10,000 a month that I upped my my overhead to. So got to a point where I had a lot of students. You know, we were probably 150, 160 students. My rates at that point were like $139 a month, so a little bit higher, but still not covering the costs. And you know, going back now recently, I had a good friend of mine who has a school with 200 students, and he's like pulling his hair out. He's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I just don't have any extra money. I'm personally broke. And that's a story that unfortunately many of us face, especially as we try to grow our studios and go into bigger facilities or get to that next level, right? So it was at that point that I, you know, did some more studying and really decided to figure out my rates once and for all. And essentially what I ended up doing was doubling my rates, and I implemented a upgrade program, which I'll talk about a little bit in a few minutes. But, you know, my mentality now, and even talking to my friend, was, yeah, it's impressive to have 200 students, but if you're not charging the right amount of money, you know, it's a really hard thing to do, and it's discouraging. Like 200 students I don't even have 200 students right now. I'm working towards that. I'm close, but I'm not there, and I'm shooting for 300 between the two locations. But the good thing that I have going is my price points are all where they should be, right? And that's important that you guys have that in place. But before I go into the structure of my pricing, I just want to talk a little bit about your value. Okay, and that's kind of what the topic of this webinar is about, is it changing your mindset to realize what your value is worth. All right. And I know, it's funny because even friends of mine look at, what I do, and, they're like, you don't work, right? And like you have an easy lifestyle, and I agree with them to some extent, but it didn't start that way. I do golf twice a week, 18 holes. I take whatever I need off whenever. We've got a lot of things in place. So it is good. But the reality is I worked my butt off to get to this point, and I'm still working my butt off to grow and to keep, growing my schools. But, going back to value, I'll share a quick little story. So I have 3 kids, and my 2 older daughters are in team sports. Okay. And one of them is in a basketball league that's run by volunteers. The other one is in a premier soccer club that we pay a lot of money for. And, just to share the difference between the two, the basketball league, as much as I love the coach and the coaches, they think they everything that they do is within, it all comes from a very good place. They care about the kids, but it's very disorganized, and it's frustrating for me as the parent to try to manage my schedules when I find out 2 days before that we have a tournament this weekend coming up, and the times are to be determined, right? It's really poorly organized and run, and it's frustrating. But we don't pay nearly as much for that league that we pay for the Premier Soccer League. Now, the thing with the Premier Soccer League is we have their schedule set for the entire season. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. I just printed it. We've got our games scheduled all the way through July 17th. And it's only March, right? So, and I'm not going to knock the basketball league, because like I said, they are really good coaching, and they care, and they're doing great skills for my daughter. But let's take town leagues or rec leagues. Okay, those again are run by volunteers, dads or moms who are working full time, and then they're trying to do this to, again, coming from a good place for their kids, but they're not able to devote as much time and effort into this program as if they were running full-time. If this was their full-time job, right? If this was their full-time job and that's what they were getting paid to do, you would see a night and day operation, right? So the same idea with the soccer club, we do pay a lot of money for it. They are very organized. We know when the schedules are, the practices are, we know when the games are, but there's a difference in the two structures. The coaches are making a full-time salary. They're getting health benefits. They're doing all that stuff. So it's their full-time job. Right. So if you can look at your current situation and think about your value. So I know some of you guys are full-time, which is awesome. Some of you guys are part-time and maybe trying to make that leap over to full-time. And if you're in that boat, don't beat yourself up because you can only do so much, right? But if your goal is to be a full-time school owner, and the first step is to structure your rates accordingly, because you need to make a living doing it, right? You have to fill your 40 hours a week in a different way, and you should be compensated accordingly, right? So that's the big thing, okay? And then, the other part is, before I tell you my rate structure, is you gotta understand your value, and then you have to rise to the occasion, right? You can't up your rates and then run your program like a volunteer, right? I mean, if you're gonna be paid full-time, or you're gonna be working towards that as your goal, then you have to treat it as a full-time job. And what I can say, like, as far as, my value and what I bring to the table for my schools, this is all I do. Okay, granted, I have some time, like I said, I get some leisure time to do what I want to do. I go to the gym or I go golfing, but on those other times, I'm working for my schools. I'm making programs better, making my website better. I'm working on marketing. I'm doing everything that I can 100% to put value into my schools, to be able to, justify the rates that we're charging. So going into that, like I said, so simple numbers, okay? If you have Studio A that has 100 students and they're charging $100 a month, okay, they're going to bring in $10,000 a month. Not bad, okay? If you have 100 students and you're charging $200 a month, you get $20,000 a month, right? Obviously a lot better. So factors obviously are your overhead. Like I said, my overhead really forced me into figuring this stuff out and making sure that I was charging accordingly. So it's kind of out of survival mode, I guess, which sometimes as school owners, those are some of the best lessons that are learned with the best outcomes. Hopefully, if you're not in that situation, you can change some stuff around now and set yourself up for success in the future, so that if you do decide to change facilities or upgrade whatever you do, there, or even just getting more staff, because for us, overhead, the two biggest overheads that we have are payroll and rent, and I'm sure that's around the board for everybody, especially as you grow and you add more teachers and all that. But anyhow, so for me, like, going back to when I was speaking with my friend, like I mentioned, I don't even have 200 students yet, but I have the money of somebody who has like 300 or 400 students, right? And personally, I think I can service less students better. I mean, I think everyone can agree with that. So if you're charging a higher amount, but you're giving them a better service, and I think any one of us would agree that's the better way to go. And that's my thing. Like, I just started a new school, and I'm a little frustrated that it's taken a little bit longer to get going than I'd wanted. We started also the year of the pandemic, so obviously that didn't help us. But it is frustrating that I'm not at 100 students in that location yet. But I'm not going to dollar down to get 100 students either, right? Like, I'd rather the 50, 60 students that I have, which is equivalent to 120, 130 students that another school might have, because it's a lot more work, right? And not only is it a lot more work, there's obviously costs that come with students, so more instructors, right? And if you're only making the same amount of money that I'm bringing in with 50 or 60 students at this other location, but now I have to up my overhead on the payroll side, you're losing almost double, right? So it is definitely something that you got to factor in. So one question just came up, depends on the income area, and that is absolutely right. So what I can tell you guys, like, I can share with you my rates, but again, I am in an affluent area, and even my second location isn't as affluent as the first one, because that one is by Boston, but it's still in an area that can afford the extracurricular stuff. In that, hold on, let me just see this real quick. So determine price point. Yeah, so when I talk about determining your price point and then your upgrade price point, yes, obviously you all have to factor in where your school is located. What I can tell you is that there is a price structure that can work for you, and that an upgrade program can also work for you. But again, your prices are probably going to, well, I shouldn't say they're going to be lower. It depends where you are. I mean, if some of you guys are out in California, or you're in, near cities and stuff, your rates should probably be very comparable to what I'm charging, or at least working in that direction. I have friends also that are in areas of the country that are, very low income. Everything is relative. So I would hope that if you're in an area where the income is low, that your rent and your overhead is also low to fit the market, right? It should be. If it's not, I'm sure there's other places that are. But determining a price point, I think, is an important thing to do. And this is something that I can't do for you. This is something that everybody has to kind of do on their own, but you have to do your homework. When I first started out, people were like, call around all the other karate schools in your area and just find out what they're charging. So I did, right? And it is a good way to kind of factor, at least to get an idea, right? But the problem is, like, we're in this call right now, and this is something that a lot of school owners struggle with, is figuring out what their value is. And like me, I just pulled it out of the air. Well, my karate instructor 30 years ago charged $65 a month, so that seems like a fair amount, right? I mean, that's awful, horrible way to look at it. So if you call the guy or girl down the street and they're charging a lot less than you, that's not something that I believe that you should structure your rates around, because you're different, right? And if you can rise up to the occasion and make your program better than theirs, which is what you should be doing anyway, that's really the way that I would. So the way I factored my rates for this new karate studio is that I looked at what I was paying for my daughter's premier soccer club, okay? And when I looked at that, I said, okay, so we pay, I don't even know, it's at least $2,000 a year plus, the travel and the other stuff. So we're probably paying $3,000-4,000 a year. The soccer club is the most popular club in the area, and there is probably 1,000 kids from the surrounding towns that are part of this league. So you can't say that people in your area can't afford it if you look at that. Like, that's clear as day how many people in your area are affording an extra after-curricular program, right? So I use that as an example to base my rates on, and it's working. I think that we're growing at a slow pace, not because of my rates. I think it's because I haven't done as much marketing as I should. I mean, I'll be the first to admit it. I've been a little bit lazy because my other school's been around for 23 years. I don't have to do much marketing at all. And people are always coming in through referrals. And, we're in a Facebook moms group that gives us referrals. So I've gotten a little bit lazy and I got to step it up in the other school. But as far as my value and my price point, I don't think that that's a problem at all. I think it's just a matter of getting more people in the door and then showing them what we do. And then, they say 3 to 5 years takes a business to break even. That's how long it took my first school to really get going. And now we're going in our 3rd year in the new school. Obviously we're going to step up the marketing, but I think that's my issue there. So anyway, if you can look at that would be, I think, some really good advice for everybody, is to start looking at clubs in your area, outside the box, not karate related. You can look at karate schools by all means, jiu-jitsu schools, any martial art related places, but look at your dance clubs, look at your gymnastic centers, and look at the successful ones, look at the big ones. Like, we have a really nice gymnastics place that my kids were in a while back, and you can use their rates because they're more professional image, so to speak. They have bigger overhead. Those are the ones that I would try to compare what you're available, or what your rates might look like. Okay. And I know we only have 10 minutes left scheduled, so I want to talk about upgrades. All right. And then, and again, it comes back to one other thing that's really important, is perceived value, right? And again, you can't charge the high amounts and then not walk the talk, right? So in other words, real simple, if your school's dirty, you're kicking, I remember when I first started, we used to kick oil bottles, Prestone oil bottles as our targets, like that sort of thing. I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody here is doing that, but you have to have a professional looking facility. You have to have, care about it. If you can't afford Swain mats right off the bat, at least make sure the place is painted and clean and professional. And as you grow, you can start getting some of the more bells and whistles. But, the perceived value is important. And, just, I don't know, real quick, take a couple of car examples, right? Kia is a good car. I think they're actually more expensive than they were. I mean, everybody's going up with that, but would you rather have a Kia or a Mercedes if money wasn't an issue, right? You say, all right, obviously I'd rather the Mercedes. It's a better car. Why? Because it's higher price point. It's, whatever, right? And I'm sure it is better in a lot of senses with what the car actually can do in this and that performance. But just as a real simple example, be the Mercedes of your town karate, right? I mean, don't be the cheap option. Nobody wants to be the cheap option, because you always put cheap with poor quality. And I'm guessing everybody on this call, you're here for a reason. You're either doing this full time, or you're trying to get to it full time. You have passion for what you do. You love helping students. That's all awesome. But know your value, and like I said, really rise to the occasion. That's the easiest way to put it. Okay, if your school is looking a little dingy or outdated, rise to the occasion. Make it look better. Make it look nicer. Make it more professional. If your staff is wearing, t-shirts and shorts to class, get everybody in uniforms. Like, look uniform, look professional. Make sure they're clean. Make sure everybody's, well groomed. I mean, all these little things are basic business tips for any business, any industry. But if you want to charge the high rates, that's kind of where, you also need to be, right? And then you focus on your program and your curriculum, and you're making sure that you're giving good quality instruction, and you're your plans are the way they should be. You know, you got people leaving on a high note, excited and happy to come back. You're also selling the parents with the values and the benefits that martial arts is teaching. So all those things combined is why you should be able to charge a higher price point. And, you know, they can kind of work simultaneously. If you've got some areas that need improvement, you can be working on those as you're starting to increase your rate structure and all that. Okay. So real quick, I just want to go through my price structure. So, again, everybody's different. So I'm just sharing with you how I do mine. I let students come in at one time a week for classes, and we charge $150 a month. I don't charge belt testing fees. We include that in our membership. When they join, they do a one-time registration fee of $200. Usually we knock $100 off as kind of an incentive to get them in there. And uniforms included. So everything's included. The $150 for once a week is a little bit high. If you look at per class value, and if people question you that, and say that's not how it works. We're on a membership. Again, we include belt testing fees. So, you know, it's not per class. You're not doing a drop-in. So you can try to redirect that question. But what I've done with the once a week membership is I've set myself up for a really successful upgrade program where we start adding stuff to their membership so they can go twice a week, or technically they go 3 classes a week because we include sparring. So when they upgrade to our black belt club, we have down payments that they have to do. First one is $497 down, $279 a month, and that includes 3 classes a week, so they can do their 2 curriculum classes plus a sparring class. Option 2 is they put $197 down, and then it's $299 a month. And then option 3 is 0 down, $329 a month. So not to get too much into my black belt club program, but it's structured in a way that I know if I have 20 students joining black belt club, that, you know, we're going to be counting on about $10,000, $8,000 to $10,000 in what do you call it, in down payments, right? So that's kind of a bonus that I look at as I do my my black belt club upgrades. So most people, like I said, you know, 9 out of 10 are going to do the $479 down with the cheaper monthly. We also do it as a 36-month commitment. So I did the math out for them, and I forget exactly, I don't have it in front of me, but their savings if they do option 1 over the course is like something like $1,500 or $1,800. And, you know, anybody that's into your program is gonna choose option 1, come up with that down payment money. Again, depends on what part of the country you are. You may have to do, I don't know, option 1, $197 down and $195. I don't know, right? I mean, that's something you guys need to figure out as far as what your demographic can handle. And then again, you know, we'll go up from there. But one thing that when I first started doing my black belt program, this actually was one at the time when I had to basically double everybody's rates in my school. So I did a junior black belt club program, I did a black belt club program, I did a master's club program. So basically everybody but maybe 10% of my school, which would like to be the little kids, got upgraded, right? And I was super nervous going into it. I was like, oh man, you know, I don't want to lose anybody. This is, you know, is it worth it? And the first time was the hardest. Now, I mean, I've probably done, geez, 200 of these black belt club meetings at this stage. Everybody is excited to be invited into black belt club. Everybody is excited to join black belt club, and nobody is barking at the rates. And if I do have somebody that's having a hard time, obviously I'll work with them. You know, I'll split up their payments, like their down payment and stuff over a couple months, whatever it is, but I'll get them to do it. And on that note, like, I do offer scholarship programs. You know, I'm not going to have a student stop because the family can't afford it. But, you know, I feel like my price points are right on target. You know, they're a little bit sticker shock, but not enough to lose anybody, you know, and that adds value to me and my program. And that's what we sell. We're selling that value. And we're walking the talk. We're getting our students in black belt club to black belt. Sometimes it takes them a little bit longer than we estimate. But, you know, we talk about goal setting, and that's a life skill, right? You know, my school, there's a perfect example. I'm going on year 3 and I'm frustrated that I don't have 100 students yet. Well, sometimes that happens. I'm not going to give up on it. I know what I'm doing, and I know that if I keep pushing, I'll get there. So it's the same idea with your students. You know, I mean, black belt's a pretty awesome thing, and it's not something that should be easy to get. But it's also something that has some value. You know, if you go to get a master's degree in college, it's not for free. You know, if you're getting a college degree, that's not for free, you know. So if you put your value on what your program offers, the life skills that you're teaching your students, and you know, all those values that we all have and have learned through the martial arts, you know, that's what you're passing along, right? So when you do that, it's just important that you structure it the right way so that you're excited to go to work, you're excited to do what you've been passionate about and love to do. But I think everybody on this call can agree with us, when money's tight, you're not the happiest person. You know, if you can't do certain things, or you're struggling to pay some bills, like, you know, we're human, we're mad, right? We're frustrated. So solving that problem with what you already have is actually not as hard as many people make it out to be. So I think I covered everything. You guys want to open it up for questions, or?
I do have a question, Steve, actually. So you had mentioned that you have the one time a week and the multiple times a week, and the price kind of correlates with that. At any time, is it, so when you upgrade people, is it at any time where, okay, you're beyond the basic program, now you kind of have to upgrade to progress in your belt rank, you know, your ranks? Or is it more so like the one time a week will get you there eventually, so you can keep somebody in that one time a week forever?
Yeah, so we don't
Like, I'm trying to understand, like, what is the balance to strike with the upgrades?
Yeah, we've kind of been a little bit more flexible with the pandemic year, because, you know, we kept all our students, we maintained, we switched them over to Zoom private, and, you know, all in all, it was very successful. But what happened was we got people higher up than they probably should have been, so we had to kind of put the brakes on a little bit. Now, before the pandemic, we wouldn't let a student go past brown belt if they haven't joined black belt club. And we tell them, because they have to do sparring as part of their black belt test, and they can't join and do black belt club, you know, 2 months before it's time for their black belt test. Obviously, they're not going to have the skill set. So it's very, people understand that, right? We had a few people sneak through that joined a little bit later, which obviously we allowed, because, you know, once people came back to the studio and we're in person again. But and normally, and going forward, now that we're back to normal, we still may have some stragglers that are past brown belt, and, you know, they're going to be kind of slowed down anyway. We have, that's a different, we do tipping system to kind of get them caught up or whatever, but those students we're still allowing in. But once we get back to normal, you know, they're not going to be able to progress past brown belt, and brown belt to our black belt is about, I don't know, a year and a half in training. So timing wise, that's really where we want them to be. And we don't say that you can't train with us anymore, but they're just not going to progress. And they understand. I mean, anybody can understand. You're only coming once a week. Make a decision. Are you looking to get your black belt with us? And I'll tell them, to say, you don't have to tell me right now. You know, if you want to wait another belt test or 2 tests, like, because we'll start them now at blue belt going into black belt club. And, you know, really, if they go, you know, green belt, which is, you know, another 4, 5, 6 months away, it's not going to slow them down. So we let them happen. But I'll be honest, like, just from doing these, 9 out of 10 students join right at that time. You know, some people give me their credit card the day of the meeting. Others will email me, you know, 2 or 3 days later. But we've had really big success with it. And it's a really good thing. I just looked, I think right now I have 70 or 75 of my students in black belt. So all those people are paying, you know, upwards of $250, $300. My student average is $200, but that also includes, you know, the students on the $150 a month, and, you know, any scholarship money that we have. But yeah, I mean, it's good. And then the other thing is, so like, we do 36-month commitment with these guys. I know that very few of these people are going to be able to cancel. And it's not even a membership contract type thing, because I'll be honest, I don't really hold them to a contract. If somebody quits my black belt club in year 1, I'm not going to take $300 a month from them, you know, say $3,600 a year times 2 was that $7,200. I'm not going to rob somebody $7,200 just because they signed a piece of paper. But when we do the black belt club, it's a real thought out process that everybody's on board with. You know, I tell them in the meeting, we're a team. The teachers are part of the team. The instructors are part of your team. The students, most importantly, are part of that team, because if they're struggling to come to class and they're giving mom or dad a hard time, it's not going to work. They're not going to get their black belt, even if they stay for the 3 years. But I know from a business owner, when I look at my stuff, yeah, I got these younger kids that are 4 or 5 years old. They can quit tomorrow, right? But the other ones kind of keep me more confident that I say, okay, I got I got all these guys that are definitely really solid. And then, out of the other ones, majority are solid too. But, understanding that they're only on a 30-day notice to cancel, the Black Belt Club is really has been a real home run for us for a lot of reasons.
Fantastic. And it looks like we had another question from Treya. She had asked if you use financial projection tools.
No, I mean, not so much. Like I do keep track of everything weekly, like daily, sometimes, like, and I look at my membership. So like, the easiest way to say what I do during a week is I manage 3 spreadsheets. I manage my, well, 4 because of 2 schools, but I manage my membership spreadsheets. I manage my business expenses and income spreadsheet, and I manage my personal spreadsheet. So I am always looking at stuff. As far as the projections go, we do have a bonus sheet I set up for 2 of my head instructors that, we're looking ahead into the future of, at anything above 160 students, they get a percentage bonus. So, forecasting that way is something that I've done. But, yeah, I mean, because like I said, my student value is $200 a month. So we kind of base that spreadsheet on that to say, okay, well, once we are at 200 students and 250 students and 275 students, and, we kind of forecast what the revenue is going to be and then what they're going to get as far as bonus money. So, yeah. But I'm pretty simple. I still use Excel. I mean, I have some software stuff I use, but Excel for me is works. And, I still take notes like this. And then I have a bin by my desk that I recycle and burn. But yeah, whatever works for you. I mean, if you can, whatever, really, that's what it comes down to. Whatever works for you, right? And all the end result is the same. We want to get more students. We want to charge the right amount of money. Give that value, so all that stuff is really important to track however it works for you.
Cool.
Does anyone else have any questions? Want to drop it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask Steve?
No.
I do have another question if nobody else has one. When you had calculated your price, right? You went high, right? So I think the idea is kind of A/B test it out, right? Shoot high, see what you get, right? And then you can always kind of adjust from there.
Yeah. I mean, every time I've raised rates, I've done it cautiously. Yeah, I mean, the hardest one for me was the new studio, like I said, because I went in and I did have some people balk at the prices, and it's discouraging, right? And especially when you're starting out, because, it takes me back 23 years ago when I first started my school, and I had people questioning my rates. And even though I was only charging $65 a month, I mean, I think that's the other nature of humans, is they always want to beat you up for the best price ever. And then it started dawning on me, I'm like, all right, so this guy's driving a Land Rover, this guy's driving a Mercedes, this one's doing this. And then I started looking at, what are the house values in town. And, these guys are $1 million, $2 million, $3 million house. And I'm like, okay, you're going to balk at my price of $200 for a birthday party. So yeah. So, I mean, yes, to go back to your question, I've always gone high. And I'm always very cautious that I'm not too high. And like I said, with the new school, even though I'm at 50 students, the ones that are there love it. And the ones that are there are kind of a mixed bag of demographic themselves, right? Like I know I've got some real successful people in town. And then I know that we have others that are, America runs on Duncan families, you know what I mean? And, not to knock either side, but it comes back to the perceived value and what you're gonna do. And then, I went back and forth with the idea of, should I just charge 100 a month, right? And then I'm like, you know what? When I have 100 students here, that $3,500 that I'm missing out on is my money. And is the $35 a month really gonna knock somebody back? I can't imagine that it would. I mean, that's only what, not even 10 bucks a week. So again, I think that if you're valuing yourself and you're displaying that value to everybody that you are interacting with, the $35 a month shouldn't be a big deal, you know? So if you're questioning what your rates should be, think of that mindset, you know? And then, you know, I've had other school owners, because, you know, I've done all these things too throughout the years, and, you know, they're like, look at the sneakers that the kids are wearing, right? I mean, if they're really not able to afford stuff, why is their kid wearing $100 pair of sneakers? Or why, you know, do they have the Under Armour sweatshirt, all that, you know? So, you know, not to get into anybody's personal business, but, you know, think about it. I mean, and that's the thing, we're in an industry where we're not out pricing even the average family, because it's a $35 difference if you think about it, right? Or if you're trying to go from 100 a month to 150, ask yourself, is $50 really going to stretch you that much? Even if you are tight, and we all go through times, I'm sure, as business owners, where times get tougher than others, but $50, there's things that you can cut back on easy to make $50 a month. Question is, are you selling them enough on your program that they will cut out that extra dinner a week to afford your program, right? I mean, it's really, and I've never had to get into it with a family about this stuff, but I do back my price. And like I said, if I can sense that a person's really having a tough time financially, and you know who they are, there are definitely people that come to you. You know, we do offer scholarship programs, you know, I mean, I've had kids go for free. You know, I'm not a jerk, you know, I'm going to help people out. But I'm not going to help the person that would rather, you know, here's another story I'll tell you. I was friends on Facebook with this mom, and I've helped her for years because she cried the whole single mom thing, and I just can't afford it and whatever. I've always helped her out, always. And then I'm on Facebook and she's in the Bahamas for a week. And I'm like, I want to be in the Bahamas for a week, right? And nothing against her, you know, that's cool that you're enjoying your life and stuff, but don't come to me and beat me up on price for $30 because you're clearly not broke and you're clearly not hurting, you know what I mean? And then on the flip side, I have had those students that clearly are hurting or clearly are going through a tough time. And, you know, maybe I had one mom that got diagnosed with breast cancer. Well, guess what? That kid didn't pay tuition for 6 months and nobody knew about it, but I'm not going to make them quit because their family, you know, is going through something. But in general, if you can look at those different things and just look at how you spend your money, you know, I know personally we eat out way too much, you know, so if I'm crying over a soccer fee, I can clearly take a weekend off of eating out, and there it is. There's my soccer fee. You know what I mean? So there's ways that people can cut back. So don't shortchange yourself to try to accommodate to their, you know, poor spending habits, or, you know, I guess, not prioritizing their spending habits, I guess, is a better thing.
Looks like we got a ton of great questions in the chat.
Okay, let me go through them. I think, okay, so let me start with,
I think Adrian's what do you use to do your demographic search?
Yep. So the demographic search, like I was saying, is the best example would be the new school that I just started, and not really understanding the demographic because, you know, my main studio is an hour and a half from where I live. So we moved closer to family. And like I said, the town that we live in definitely has money. People have that discretionary income. It's not the same demographic by any stretch that I'm in my other school by Boston. I mean, those people there, I mean, it's night and day to what their cost of living is, and, you know, everything involved, right? But again, we're not selling $100,000 SUVs versus the $20,000, you know, slightly used car. You know, our rates are going from, you know, a $35 to $50, $60, $75 a month increase, you know, $10, $15, $20 a week. You know, you're not really in the same type of business where someone just physically can't afford a giant SUV, right? I mean, it's something that they just can't do. So our type of business, I feel, is, you know, it's more of a spending habitual thing that, you know, you could, I don't know. I mean, we always deal with families, so I don't ever want to get into anybody's personal business or how they spend their money. But if you worry about, you know, focusing on really making your program a 5-star program, the best that it can possibly be, just on your appearance and on what you're teaching and how you're servicing your students, you'll be able to charge whatever you want. People will come up with the money to afford it. To not outprice yourself, I would call the karate schools. Why not? Just for fun. Call the karate schools, tell them that you have a kid or 2 kids that you want to enroll. How much would it be? Do you offer any family discounts? Blah, blah, take your notes. Then you call, don't do it from your karate phone, obviously, because everybody has caller ID. So use your cell phone, right? Or your house phone. But then, you call your karate schools, call the gymnastics center. That's a very comparable business to ours because it's after school activity for the kids. Talk to your soccer club. Soccer is a real popular sport. I mean, we're a soccer town where we are. And that was really what I used to determine my price point, that what I'm paying for my kids' soccer, not to mention all the travel and stuff that we don't have in karate in the beginning stages, it's a no-brainer, right? People can afford what we charge. My job right now is to make sure they understand the value of that, which they obviously, will once we get them there and that they're part of it, and the people I do have obviously understand it and they've been with me. I mean, that's the other thing. My retention is awesome. So that's another thing that you can look at to kind of gauge how you're doing. If you charge high rates and you're losing people every couple of months, you might be charging too much, or you have holes in your program where you're not selling that service to the level that you're charging, right? So there's something that it tells you a story anyway, right? So anyway, that's what I would use to try your demographic search. And then you could also look at like what the cost of living is. I don't even think that's super important. I mean, unless you're in a real depressed area, but if you look at the median house cost, I mean, I don't even know what it is here. I would probably say in the 300-400 range, but even if you're lower than that, which a couple of the surrounding towns are definitely lower than that, it's a $35 a month increase. Think of it that way. So regardless of what they're paying, even if they're renting and they're not homeowners, whatever it is, I mean, it's a $35 a month increase. It's peanuts on the weekly side of things. Easy to, if you look at your own budget, a few less items on your grocery list, or in my situation, maybe once a month we don't go out to eat. I mean, that more than pays for any increase, and like I said, not that you're going to get into that with them, but understand that we're not charging, $1,000 a month for exclusive martial arts training. I mean, we're charging pretty much what other activities are charging, but be on the higher end is what I would suggest, because then that's that whole perceived value thing. That's what makes you stand out. Oh, they're expensive. Well, good. People like expensive because it means that they're better, right? And that's, everybody on this call, if you had the choice between putting your kid in some, rinky-dink program or putting them in something that's going to really help them, get good life skills and real martial arts skills or whatever, all of us would figure out a way to afford the later. The same thing with my kid's soccer. I'm not having her in the rec league because she's beyond that. Like, she's shown a real interest and works her butt off and is talented. So we're going to support her and get her in a program that's going to help, help her grow. Right. Next one was, can you explain what's involved in your black belt club? Yeah, I mean, pretty much it's an upgrade program. It's a leadership program. The way that we justify the rate increase is because, we sell lessons, right? I mean, if you, at the end of the day, what do we sell? We sell lessons. So when you're selling your lessons and you're upgrading somebody and you add more lessons, it's obviously a justifiable price increase because you're adding more to what they're doing. Now, the 150, whatever that breaks down to per class per week, $35 or something like that, I think, or $36, whatever it is. When they go to twice or 3 times a week, their per class amount is going to be a lot lower than 36, but their upgrade fee is a lot more, so instead of 135, now they're going to 279 with a down payment. We've more than doubled it, but we've also more than doubled their class time, right? So, and you got to be creative with this stuff. So for us, we do sparring. Sparrings are kind of our black belt club, increase with the extra class. But, you might have a jiu-jitsu program, or you might have a demo team, or you might be a competitive school, whatever it is. You can be creative and don't let your new students join that right away. Let them know about it, have it all around your school, and, highlight, or showcase the students that are part of it. Because even like we have all our new black belt club members posted on a board, and we keep them up there for about a year. Right now we have like 35 kids that are all on that board. So the new people coming in, even without realizing it, I'm selling them on black belt club for a year or 2 years later, because they see that's what we do, right? We have our sign up in front that says winner never quits, quitter never wins. We are a black belt school. We have our student creed that every student says, even the 4-year-olds that can't pronounce some of the words, but they're saying it. We are a black belt school. We're dedicated. We're motivated on a quest to be our best. And this is what we're pre-framing them all for: the kids, the students, the parents. So all that stuff is kind of part of it. And, basically you want to give them something more, right? And then we do let students, we'll get some students that want to do twice a week, and our twice a week rate goes from $150 a month from once a week to $249 twice a week. So we'll let students go twice a week. That's fine, but we still upgrade them to Black Belt Club, and we add the sparring in. So they're still joining Black Belt Club. They're the easiest ones to sell because they're already used to paying $249 a month. So now they're only going up $30 a month to do the $279. So but most of my students, especially because we deal with a lot of the younger kids, we keep them in that once a week program, sometimes 2-3 years, and then we upgrade them at that point. But the 2-3 year mark is when they join when they're 4. So they're doing karate once a week at 4 years old or 5 years old. But when we get them up to the, 8-9 year old range, that's when we push Black Belt Club. And, like I said, it's actually, so I look forward to it. I look forward to the meetings. I look forward to talking to the families. I look forward to the excitement. And, as the owner, I get everything that you guys get, right? I get that anxiety and the doubt. Am I going to be able to get this? I don't want to lose people. And now it's like, I have my sheet with my rates and I hand it to them. I said, there's an upgrade going on based on the more classes that you're getting. These are the costs. If you do option 1, it's going to be cheaper in the long run for you. If you do option 2, it's going to be a little bit more per month, but less down. If you do option 3, you're obviously, that's the most. Nobody does option 3. I get some that do option 2, but majority of them are going to do option 1. And like I said, I count on that. I know, if I have 20 students coming into Black Belt Club, I kind of count on that $10,000 bonus coming over the next month, because nobody in their right mind mathematically would choose any of the other options. I mean, unless they had some hesitation of moving or if they're on the fence or whatever. But, when we have them talk to the kid and make sure that they're all on board, they are. And then, another thing is I do give them an out on Black Belt Club. So what we do is at the bottom, I say you have a 90, 60, 30-day cancellation clause. So if you join the first year and you quit for whatever reason, it's a 90-day notice. No one ever has done that. No one ever will do that. Second year, 60-day notice, 2 months. Third year in your membership, it's 30-day notice. That's what everybody's on right now. Honestly, the only reason I put that in there is to make sure that nobody has any hesitation about the 36 months. Nobody's going to quit. Very few quit. I've lost maybe over the years, maybe 3 have quit in the course of their Black Belt Club membership, fulfilling the 3 years. Some have not gotten their black belt at the end, and that's, it's not a guarantee they're going to get their black belt, because, the way our program works, we're just the coaches to take them to that level, but anyway, so that's kind of the Black Belt Club question. The fitness side, we don't actually have a fitness program, so I can't really answer that one. But what I would offer for a suggestion is you can use the same type of model. I mean, if you're doing personal training, it's almost identical to what a personal trainer would charge. We do $350 a month for private lessons for a 30-minute lesson once a week. I think that those students we upgrade to Black Belt Club too, because even though they're doing private lessons, they have to go into sparring. So we adjust their rate. I had one student just did it. They pay $450 a month. So they stay with their private lesson, and we upgraded them 150 with that 479 down. I'm sorry, the 497 down. So you can be creative, but there's always an opportunity for an upgrade, and especially like if you're starting out, I don't expect anybody starting out to jump to my rates. I think that's a high amount, especially if you're not in the same type of demographic. But whatever you're charging now, my guess is you have room to increase it, and then you increase whatever you're charging for your regular thing, and then you have an opportunity to upgrade. If you're already letting them come for X amount unlimited classes, you have a little bit more of a challenge. In that situation, I would say maybe draw that line in the sand and grandfather those people in, and going forward, you offer once a week class or twice a week group, or what I mean? Like try to structure your upgrade program for the future a little bit better. That's up to you. And like I said, when I was in dire straits and I had to figure it out, I upgraded every single student in my school just about, and nobody had a problem. I mean, we had a couple maybe that were a little bit sticker shocked, and I worked with them, but I didn't lose anybody. So, you know, if you put it in place and you have a quality thing for them to get, they're going to be happy to give you the money. They'll be excited to give you the money, and then you'll be excited to take the money, obviously, right? All right, how would you recommend increasing? I'm at 109 to 119 based on program concern and pricing people out of the program. Yeah, I mean, I think that in that situation, you're in a really good spot to start an upgrade program. So if you can look at what they're getting for the 109 to 119 and then figure out something you can add into that, like if you can add in an additional class, and then, you know, based on what you're charging there, you know, I don't know how many classes you're charging, but let's just say that you're charging $20 a class or $25 a class, you know, make it so that it's a $15 class increase. So whatever that comes out to, another $60 a month is your upgrade to start, right? And then once you see everybody's not having a problem and you get your confidence doing the upgrades, which you will get once you have the first round under your belt, then you can up it from there, you know. And you'll see once you get going with it, and you can read people, you know, if people are genuinely concerned about that price increase, you know, that's a red flag that, you know, if it's not just one family, but, you know, like say majority of your families are balking at the price, then that would be something I would be cautious with. But like I said, when I first did it the first time, I was really afraid of losing students because I had such a high overhead. So even though I wasn't, you know, rolling in dough myself, I needed those people to pay so I didn't go under. So my concern was the same. I didn't want to lose anybody, you know, and I didn't. And majority of them went ahead and did the upgrade. And the ones that gave me a hard time, I grandfathered them in, you know, and you still keep them as a student. But like I said, you draw that line in the sand, everybody new coming in is going to have to pay the new stuff and the new structure. What other things do you include in your inclusive packages besides no testing fees? Really, that's it. We don't charge fees for you know, our membership. We don't charge the merchant fees. You know, I know a lot of people will charge whatever it comes out to that you're paying for, you know, either the membership.
So the financing costs, you don't.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't charge anything for that. And you know, again, when I restructured my rates, like we charge a lot. You know, so I'm not going to nickel and dime somebody. In my opinion, I'm not going to nickel and dime a student to say, all right, well, you're paying me $279 a month, and your credit card fees are $11.50. So I'm going to charge you the extra $11.50. I'm just pulling that number out of the air. I have no idea what my merchant fee is on that. But you know, I think it's cleaner. The bell testing fees is a good sell because when people come in, I know that if somebody's shopped around, I say, you know, a lot of studios will charge less on a monthly basis, but then every 2 months you're going to get hit with a $75 or $80 belt test fee. I'm like, we don't do any of that. It's just everything's included, right? The uniform, I mean, we all know we get them for $12. We include their uniform. When people buy a new uniform, it's $65. But when I'm selling the membership, your first uniform, the uniform's included, right? I don't even go in first, second, whatever. The uniform's included. We don't do testing fees. I don't get into the whole merchant fee. I would say 95% of my students pay with credit or debit card. You know, I may have 5% that pay through EFT, which obviously our rates are less on those. But either way, I don't charge. Amex charges more, but you know what? I'll take whatever card they're willing to give me. If BJ's was a card I could take, I'd take their BJ's card. But you know, the whole point is that whatever means they have to use to pay us, we accept. You know. All right. So then, do we offer discounts for family members? Yes, we do a 10% discount on a family member. So if you look at Black Belt Club, we keep the options the same. So it's still $497 down for option one, whether it's one family, two family, three family member, doesn't matter. But then their monthly amount is a 10% discount for each additional family member. We don't do 10%, 20%, 30%. I know some school owners I've talked to in the past kicked themselves after they did that and filled their school with families, and they realized that's not the way to go.
Suddenly everybody's family. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you know, they're losing. So I learned that one without having to go through it myself from others. But yeah, I mean, that's how we do that. My fee schedule is we start everybody $150 a month at once a week. Normally a $200 registration fee. We always have a sale depending on the time of year, but it's always $100 that I say Giroux Brothers is paying $100 for you. Again, for me, the $100 would be cool, but it's also an easier barrier. You know, like if they're gonna question over $100, who cares over the $100 really? Just get them in on their memberships. The monthly recurring is where we make our money, obviously. So, you know, the $100 is peanuts. And if it closes the deal for you without any hesitation or, oh, let me go home and think about it, you know, usually that's why I do it. And it works well. And we do not let students spar unless they're in Black Belt Club. You know, again, something, if you're already doing this, draw a line in the sand. If you wanted to try to implement a similar upgrade program, you can call it junior peewee sparring or whatever. And, you know, new students coming in, for whatever reason you want to tell them, liability or just, you know, getting them kind of a little bit more training under their belt, you know, you can kind of do that. So Daniel had to leave for his appointment. You're very welcome if you're reading this or watching your recording after, and I appreciate you being on here. I appreciate everybody being on here with me, and you know, I hope that it helped you. You know, I mean, that's what we do. I've been helped many times over in this industry from others before me, so that's kind of where I'm at. If I can help any of you guys that are either starting out or going through that journey, which, you know, has lots of ups and downs as we grow and as we try to implement new things. Like I said, I'm happy to share whatever information I can to help you guys, because I truly do feel what we do is important. I think we're a very valuable part of our communities and for our youth, and adults the same. You know, I mean, adults have stress, they have stress more than anybody. So helping them out to have a nice break in their day and their week is good. And I got one more question. How do you handle sparring gear for joining Black Belt Club? Okay, good question. So what we do when we do our Black Belt Club sheet is I have a sheet. I have the first sheet is the membership options. The second sheet lists the equipment that they're going to need. So we do full set of sparring equipment, chest guard, headgear, everything. I think that comes out to about $250. And then we do an upgrade uniform, which is $88 plus tax. So total, I think, comes to like $3 and change. So when they join, they pay their $497 is option one, or whatever option they do, and then they pay for their gear and their uniform. So altogether, I think it comes out to like around $850 or $8 something for one person. And then what I do is I order their gear, and then you do their uniform. I mean, obviously we're selling the uniform at retail. So I think my uniforms for the upgrade ones are $40 maybe with the logo on the back. And then sparring equipment, yeah, it's usually like, I don't know, I probably make like half. I mean, it's the same upgrade or same wholesale cost, retail cost difference. So on the gear, I think I make $100. On the uniform, I make 140. So you add that to the down payment. So you're looking at like, I don't know, $650 is probably the profit that would come out of Black Belt Club upgrade. So, and I think that's the last question. So unless anybody else has any other questions, let me know. And otherwise, you guys, I told the Christians too, they can email out my information. So if anybody wants to email me anything, you're welcome to. And I'm happy to you know, share whatever, help you out getting your programs going. Mark, thank you very much. Appreciate you being on.
And just to wrap things up, today's webinar is obviously being recorded, and we will send a follow-up email tomorrow. And that email will include the recording and some special business building resources that we've put together for everyone. So be on the lookout for your email tomorrow. And thank you, Steve, for all your incredible information. I gather that everyone really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it from all of the questions that were coming in. We really appreciate your time, and thank you again, everyone, for joining us today.
Yeah,
have a great one.
Guys. Yeah, I appreciate it. Have a good day,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Thank
All
you,
right,
guys.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.